Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. This is the second hour we're going to do this time with Pan. I want to, first of all, thank you so much for supporting the show, for supporting this project and this idea. And well, we can just jump right in. We were just a few seconds ago, we were starting to get into the this idea of the darkness and the light and the role that they each play in this evolution of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. So if we have an evolution in consciousness, we have an evolution. So we need also the unconsciousness as a background. It's like a writing board. You have a black writing board that you can write with white chalk on it. Otherwise, the writing is not visible. Now, we will always have a certain amount of unconsciousness, or we can call it darkness, that the light can expand. If the light expands, the darkness also expands. It is in the perfect proportion like the yin and the yang. But from the human side, we of course, I would say, we can hope that it's more light than dark. That we come to a point where there is more light than darkness. To a certain amount, it will be always there. Now, what is the reason for suffering? To ripen our souls, our minds to understand. It's like when you have a dream in the night. If it is a beautiful dream, who wants to wake up? You may be disappointed because you woke up. But if you have a horrible dream, everybody would like to wake up. And like this is it with the suffering. If the suffering getting very big, people are willing to wake up. So the suffering is actually like fuel, but driving the evolution of consciousness forward. It has its place. It just needs to be in a good proportion.
Right. Don't you think we could how can we learn to grow up and to evolve and to wake up before the suffering pushes us, so as not to have to go through that? Is suffering always, or also I sometimes make the distinction between suffering and pain. Is it going to be necessary? Like, do we need to have like a sword above our heads before we make the right decisions?
To a certain extent, yes. Physical suffering is unavoidable because the body world, to a certain extent, you can have a headache, you can have toothache, something, you hit your leg, maybe because of being not present. Many times when I hurt my body is because I was not fully present. So even the physical suffering or pain teaching me something, you need to be more present. Be with what you are right now and here, and not mentally ahead and hit with a hammer your thumb, because you're not fully there. So even on such a simple level, the pain is a teacher. Illness can be a teacher because it maybe points at a psychological imbalance. Everything, when you see everything in life, in our life, delivers a message, is giving us a teaching, but we need to listen. We need to feel it, to let it in, to understand it, to embrace it. Also when it is, this sounds crazy, also when it is unpleasant, if I push it away, I do not get a message. If I embrace it, say, okay, what this difficulty wants to tell me. It's a feeling message, so I need to feel it. So To a certain extent, physical pain, maybe to a certain percentage, 1/3, maybe half, is also happening to our unconsciousness. We are not fully present in the here and now. Psychological suffering is completely unnecessary. And on the other hand, necessary to realize that we have to deprogram our minds. Our minds are programmed with very negative attitudes, programmed with fear. And that creates our psychological suffering. If the psyche is overloaded, it gives it to the body. If the body is overloaded, you have to see the doctor. You have to go to the hospital. It falls ill. It's a one mechanism. When it is in the perfect balance, it's most likely also physically quite healthy, depends on the constitution, how you grew up, what food you get, and so on. The first 7 years are very decisive, also on the body level. So suffering has its role to play. It's a teacher. If we would be born without suffering, there would be no evolution. We would be not learning anything. It's that picture what the Zen people have. The fish in the sea is not aware that the sea is life. A wave throws him to the sand, to the shore. He makes it back to the sea. He has a different understanding of the sea. Now the fish knows the sea is life. It's not something given for granted. And I think this picture can help us, they are simple to understand the paradox we are in as a human being, that we learn to our suffering. That's why I also sometimes recommend, look at the collective history. Do we have to repeat it in a bit a different variation? But do we have to do it again and again? Look at your personal, your individual mistakes. Do you have to repeat it again? We can learn. But for learning, we have to be very honest to ourselves, and then as a side effect to others. That we're just honest, that we're not deceiving ourselves, that we're not hiding our mistakes. I made many, and I learned from them all. And you said it, it's clever to learn from your own mistakes, but it's wise to learn from other people's mistakes. So we need to learn to reflect. Our being is like a mirror. We need these analogies, simple pictures that everybody can understand. It's just like a mirror. It mirrors everything. It's a mirroring quality. The mirror does not cling to somebody beautiful and say, don't go away. You're so beautiful. I want to reflect you forever. It's just reflecting it. And then some ugly face appears. The mirror does not say, go away, you are ugly. It just reflects it. It does not cling, it does not reject. This is the meditative state. You do not cling, you do not reject. You accept that what is. It is just reflected. You are the seer, not what you see. It's an old Asian saying. You are the seer, not what you see. The mirror never changes. And this is, maybe we can call the awakened state, that you realize that you're just a mirror-like quality. And this mirror-like quality is not personal. That's universal. The whole universe, the whole existence is like a multidimensional mirror. It just reflects everything. It does not reject and it does not cling to. It allows everything. It gives space for everything. Also for, when we look from the human perspective, very strange, inhuman, ugly acts. It's also allowed that we understand we need a change of attitude. We do not have to commit that. But to understand that we do not have to commit that, we have to commit it. That's the crazy play. Like, you tell a child, don't put your hand on the hot stove. It looks at it and has to dry it. And then, yeah, I have understood. It hurts. It is very unpleasant. And we are like this. I mean, I think humanity is still in a very childish state.
Right. Isn't there a point where we understand from having touched the stove and thinking, okay, this next thing I'm about to do is similar to the thing with the stove, so I'm not going to do this in order to learn that I shouldn't do this? When are we going to reach that? When are we going to reach that individually even?
That's an individual happening, and when many individuals understand that, we come to a tipping point. That is then in the air. So on this we have to work. When you understand that you exist in this human form called Rafa, to be the evolution in consciousness. If many people understand this, it doesn't have to be the majority, just a certain percentage. We come to a tipping point where on the collective level, also a certain understanding starts to arise. But this is, maybe we only see the beginning, maybe not even that, but this is going to happen. So there is another sample. Some Japanese scientists made an experiment with two groups of monkeys. Maybe you have heard that. They were on different islands, and he threw potatoes into the sand, and the monkeys got it as his food. But it is sandy. What to do with it? They did not want to eat the sand. So one group of monkeys, one monkey started to wash it in the sea and was eating it. Of course, soon, because monkeys watch each other, this group started to wash the potatoes. In the same time, without having a connection, on the other island, the same happening. The same, and this other group of monkeys started to do it in the same time. So there is the law of synchronicity, it's so to say in the air. It was another sample I was reading when Einstein published his theory of relativity. There was some German scientist and somebody else, I forgot from which country he came from, found the same thing, but didn't publish. Einstein was just faster. And then he was asked, how did it happen that you came to that theory? He said it was in the air. And then he even came to know that other fellow who had it in his straw. He was just a bit slow and or maybe not so eager to publish. Of course, he was very happy because in his days, only 2-3 people understood it. It was too complex for the mind in those days. Look, we had religious fanatism where they said in the Bible was written, the earth is flat. It took 500 years that they say, okay, we cannot hold this theory anymore. So you see, there is an evolution even. This is also kind of consciousness that we get a big different picture from our surrounding. Yeah, there were times where they tried to cure people by giving them mercury. And then they realized, yeah, that's poison, we cannot do that. The Romans had lead poisoning because they mixed lead into their vessels where they kept the wine in. And he realized that if you put a little lead in, the wine stays cool. But he all got a lead poisoning after, especially the rich people drinking it. Now everybody knows you do not drink out of a vessel, a cup, or something where there's lead in. You do not want to poison yourself. So in small steps, there is a learning happening. Yeah. And since we are eternal beings, we have eternity to learn. If you go to the universal side, that we are just eternal beings. We have endless time. Actually, it's beyond time to learn. But in the human experience, one hopes that we learn faster. But this is, again, you bring it back to the individual. It's a choice. You want to learn fast. You want to come out of your unnecessary suffering, because I would say 90% is homemade, is self-created. By believing in the negativity we are programmed with. We have not a life affirmative program. Our cultures have never created that. We are still in all kinds, you could almost say superstitions still. Yeah. So you see, we are not being here the first time. We have lived many lives and came to a point. Why certain people come to a point, say, I have to look in a spiritual direction. I'm not interested anymore in having success in the material world. That money, fame, power is it. Creating a family, making a career, all this. Some people have that subjective feeling, no, I think I'm not here for that. There must be somewhere a bell ringing or a memory, a faraway memory. I tried that before and I died in discontentment. And many people who have these NDAs, these near-death experiences and coming back, saying, the met beings, light beings, they ask them, and what you have learned from your life now? Do you have understood? What did you understand? And it looks like a strange school here. Nothing, go back. Do it again. Or something. Okay, continue. You see, I'm born in a small farmer's village. Here was in those days close to the East German border, was called the Iron Curtain. It was very laid back. Nobody wanted to invest in anything because it was the Cold War. Could be the front row in the next war, the front line. So it was very laid back. So why was then this guy interested in spirituality and everybody else in soccer and continuing the family business, the farm, and so on? I could not explain that for myself, but I knew somewhere, no, I do not want to live that. I do not want to continue the tradition in that village. I just felt alien to me. I could not say exactly why, only the feeling I feel and see that nobody who lives this is content and happy. So why should I do that? To be discontent and unhappy and just fulfill duties? I had the feeling I'm not there in this life for that. And I'm sure that I lived life, and I know even that I lived lives where I made the same mistakes. I believed in the common consent that you do what everybody does, and that led to disappointments. I have memories on past lives individually, especially on fighting for justice. And my sanya's name, what I then get from Osho, meant surrender. Yeah, this is what an old warrior needs, to give up. Yeah. There is no nothing worth fighting for anymore. Yeah. So, but you have to make these mistakes, It looks like it makes sense, to help, to fight for justice, for the downtrodden, the enslaved people, for freedom, but it always failed. Every revolution was bloody, and afterwards it was worse. So there are things our soul is like a fine substance, like what carries information. So we have also information from our previous lives and our mistakes. And that brings people to the point, no, not this time, there must be something else. It puts you on a search. And maybe you even have met already beings who shared a higher understanding, so you're looking for this again. The Tibetans, as long as old Tibet existed, had a whole system that you incarnate in Tibet again, because it's very easy to continue. It's familiar, you are trained in a certain way, your body, mind, your soul can recognize again. And it's very helpful for your spiritual development. Now, old Tibet is destroyed, they appear all over the world. And maybe for a certain time get a bit disoriented in New York City, in Las Vegas, in Punta del Este, or wherever they come out again. Yeah. But they find their way because the memory is there. Now, once you're on the spiritual, as we call it, spiritual path, you have to continue. You can postpone, you can try to forget, but then you will suffer. And that suffering reminds you, what is my mistake? As long as I put responsibility on the circumstances, on the society, on the, whatever, I will not learn. If we start to understand that if I'm not feeling well, I made a mistake, I can find it and correct it in my way of thinking, in what I believe, maybe in my habits, how do I live? Maybe I have to change my diet. It can be simple things. Just change a certain habit. It maybe was okay until this point, but now I have to change. And therefore we need to be sensitive, open, and honest. And if you change one habit, it's like a domino effect. Just one habit changes many habits. And this is what mind is reluctant in it, the famous comfort zone. But there you fall asleep. If there would be no suffering on that planet, mainly the psychological suffering, what then has physical follow-ups, nobody would be interested in a spiritual growth. Nobody. If there would be not death, nobody would be interested in spirituality, although death is just a change of dimension from this dimension into another dimension. But existence is wise. It created, so to say, the possibility of physical death, of psychological, physical suffering, to put a question mark, to put people or souls on a quest. If we would be born immortal, we forever young, we do not age, we do not fall ill, we have no suffering, we are fixed in an enlightened state. You can try to commit suicide, it won't work, you cannot die. We would go mad. But we have so many opportunities to go astray that makes us seek What is it? Why we are here? Who I am? Why I'm living and for what? We have to run in so many dead-end roads to seek a road what is not blocked somewhere, what not suddenly ends, what just continues. I think these pictures are understandable. So suffering is a ripener. You ever meet, for example, wine or something like that? There is this fermenting process. It stinks. It looks ugly. You look at it, if I cannot drink this, I die. But it's a process. And then at some point, if you distill it, you have strong alcohol, or some other process, you have beer or wine. But the process is very ugly and very unpleasant smells. It's foaming, it looks, oh my God, this is undrinkable. Just take some time and the right understanding and the right procedure, and you have wine.
Right, and the conditioned mind is plays with the when you're going to take that courageous step towards evolution, it plays with the fear. Oh, is this looking ugly because it's a fermentation process that will make you better, or is this ugly because this is the wrong step to take? So stay here in the comfort zone, right? It kind of plays with that doubt.
Very good point. That's why existence always provides mystics, or commonly you can say spiritual teachers, but this is not a teaching really. This is not a good phrase, but people understand it like this. Gurus, or I like the Sufi way, they say it, a spiritual friend. It's a friend who shares the experience. The guru is also very misunderstood. Actually, if you translate the word guru, it means the one who shares his light, the one who shares experience. So that's why they are always there to encourage you. Say, look, I went to the fermenting process. I was in depression. I was like, no way out. I thought I chose the wrong track. I went astray. But when the light is the darkest, the morning is the closest, just go on. As the Buddha said, Cheravedi, Cheravedi, move on, move on. Yeah, that's why these people are here. And when you go to the process, you go to the fermenting process because you have trust, or you found somebody, some support, somebody who encouraged you. Even you can read it in a book, say, okay, somebody went through this, why not me? Yeah, you get the encouragement. Existence cares for the people who care for existence. Yeah. So then you get prepared to play the same role. If you're sincerely on a spiritual path, you learn. You go to the dark phases. You have to face your shadow. You have to encounter your demons and say, okay, they are just made out of thoughts I believe in. They are not even real. But when I believe in, they become real. You have to face it. You maybe have to face some pain. And you go through it and you find the light. What can you do? Only share this. So everybody who's sincerely on a spiritual path gets prepared to encourage other people to go through it. Like a guide, you go to the, I don't know, to the Andes. You have never been there. It's intelligent and reasonable to ask a local guide who knows the way around, and you can go through it and come alive back. You can get lost because you never, if you do it on your own. It's the same thing. Yeah? You're prepared to guide people to the inner mountain range, where you also can get lost, so to say. So everybody's future is like this. If you learn, you understand the mistakes, And then depends on the talent. Some have the talents to create maps for other people. Mythologies are maps. Systems are maps to support people. Other people are just because you meet them and they are very positive and you get inspired by this. There will be always support on this planet because we are here for the evolution in consciousness. As Meher Baba said it, he said the divine has always 6 offices open for the people who need the support, for the people who need encouragement. And then I thought maybe we need 7 now. The 7th is for chaos management. That was not so much needed in the old days. People are now so confused already because they have too much information. Because he counted 5 traditional paths and 1 non-traditional path. And now we need a 7th one where everything is chaotic. You get so much spiritual information also. What is on one hand great, on the other hand, it confuses people. You get shamanic information, you get yoga information, you get science information from science, but this is part of the fermenting. So the encouragement is needed. That's not just somebody says, okay, I walk with you for a certain time, that you understand the path, and then you are, when I'm leaving, then it is your task to walk with people because you know the path now. You walked it, you know the pitfalls. You can remind them, or when they fall in, say, okay, that was a mistake, I help you out, come out. And actually you can come out on your own. So it needs to stay alive from generation to generation. So when the mystics always have to find the next generation to support them to their difficulties, to their fermenting time, that he understand it, that he can pass it on. When you have a deep spiritual understanding to your own experience, there is no other way. The only thing what can happen, you can only share it. And you do not have to wonder or ponder about or think about it. How shall that happen? It will happen. You do not have to even look for it. You only are open to it. The people who need that support, who are looking for that support, will be connected to you. There is a law of attraction. Somebody is willing to share, somebody appears says, okay, I'm willing to take. That happens almost magical. When I came to this point in my life, I didn't do anything. I just went to one of these mountains around here. There was a big antenna for radio or something. I said, okay, I'm open to share. Symbolically told this metallic device. Okay, done. It started to happen. In a magical way. People appeared, disappeared again, but it happened. I informed a few friends with a letter. Okay, then strange things happened. They thought I lost my marbles and had hardly any friends left, but new ones came. And so it still goes on, You do not have to think about it, how this is happening. And you still learn. Now you learn a new art, how to share the impossible, how to share something what is not a concept, what is not words, what is not thoughts, by using concepts, words, and thoughts. That's quite a puzzle to solve. To explain something you understand when there is no words, no thought. It's a message, but it's not a concept, but can only be shared actually in silence. But you have to translate this into words. And this is a bit the same difficulty where people have who had near-death experiences. And say, okay, that was beyond our concept as humans. And now to bring it back to the human concept is almost impossible, but they have the task to do so. Because we need to come to know, that's part of the evolution of consciousness or in consciousness, that when the physical life ends, nothing ends, just something else starts. And this is an ongoing, never-ending process. Something old leaves, something dies, simultaneously something is born. A tree dies, becomes soil for the next tree. It is always sustainable. It's a cycle, a circle.
Something that I feel kind of like a blockage or a limitation for me right now in my own journey is this idea of memory and like going into a next life and losing your memory, you know, coming back, not remembering, at least consciously, you know, and I don't know if this makes sense to you, like what
you remember intuitively. You only have to allow your abilities, your capacities to feel, to expand, that you have, so to say, your original sensitivity again. That's scary for the mind. When we come to this planet, you see little babies, they are super, super sensitive. You just sensing. We bring this quality. And then we lose it a little bit to our conditioning, to our experiences and so on. Yeah. But you can rediscover it. It's still there. So the Buddha said enlightenment is the 100% capacity to feel. So if you rediscover your sensitivity again, what still is there, you have not lost it. It's just covered with concepts you can discreate, you can erase. You become as sensitive as you have been in the primal form. You discover this again. That opens your being to intuitive information. And then you know, and you cannot explain why. You simply know. Your mind cannot doubt it.
Kind of like
you trust your intuition.
Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Kind of like a sixth sense. Like we have our sixth sense covered by our condition.
Yes, by our rational way of thinking. You know, the modern human being is the most rational ever have existed here. You know, we are created super technology, everything logical, rational, and so on. Materialistic attitude, very materialistic attitude. Yeah, that covered the sixth sense. Everybody, we all have psychic abilities. We are all super sensitive people. We all have the ability to be telepathic, but we do not using it anymore. We have ignored it. So the receptors in our brain are not stimulated. We still have them. You need to stimulate them again, then they start to work. So in that sense, rationally you have forgotten, but intuitively, on the intuitive level, you remember. The truth you can feel. That's something very irrational. You meet somebody or something where you feel undoubtedly this is true, but you cannot reason about it. You're just sensing it. Yeah. And you're also not willing to reason about it because you know it makes no sense. That's a very subjective understanding. Yeah, this is true. I just feel this through and through. And even my rational mind is not able to knock it over to doubts. There is a deeper knowing in your heart, maybe, or in your belly, wherever you feel it, or in both places.
I can connect with this because I'm with this that you're saying, you know, it resonates very much because I started, I'm doing Akashic Records readings. And when I started doing that, slowly I started, it's hard to put it to words, but because it sounds crazy, but I started remembering that I have already done this before, you know, that like that kind of connection and then that kind of offering or of service to others, I feel like I've already done it before.
Yes, so you remember, but you remember different, not with your mind, you know.
It's like I'm not learning this for the first time. It feels like that.
Yes, it's always a continuity. So quantum physics says that the whole universe is information. So the Akashic Records is just an old picture for information, that the information is there. In those days, when people thought about it, they knew a library with many, many books. There are the records. It was before electronic information, so there were different picture, but it points at the same. We just need to, our brain translates the universal information to our time spirit, to our information. In the past, the Kundalini energy was symbolized to a snake, because snakes people knew something what moves like this and has a kind of flexibility. A snake is a very sensitive animal because it senses with the whole body. So now nobody sees the Kundalini energy as a snake anymore. You see it as electricity. Because now we know electricity, and not many people, you have to go out of Montevideo a bit to the backwoods to meet a snake, not in Montevideo anymore. And in the very civilized world like here, you have to go to a special reservoir, and then you won't see a snake. You just know that they are still living there. Here, no? It's too much human activity to have disappeared. So we always translate this to the spirit and the understanding of our time. So now the Akashic Records is a very old principle, goes back to the Tibetans and other cultures. Maybe this, I do not know, I just know it from the Tibetan side. Is what quantum physics found now. The universe is just information. It's not a library, but in those days they knew just libraries. So you always, you see, that's why I say the soul carries the information. It has learned something and it will continue in that way. So, and right now, in our time, this is very beautiful. Many people say the children who are born now are very extraordinary. So many souls come back to continue. Many already advanced, developed souls, because it's needed now. Now we need many people who are intuitive, who are sensitive again. We went, so to say, too far into the materialistic, rational state. That brought this humanity out of balance. That brought the individuals out of balance. So our job is to bring the balance back. And people are ready for it because the materialistic, rational attitude hit the wall. And it's hitting the wall. You live in fear because when a culture loses the spirit, it goes down the drain. So it has to rediscover the spirit, and the spirit is not something rational, it's not something logical, it's something more intuitive. Yeah, it's something beyond the boundaries of our rational mind, even beyond the boundaries of the irrational part of our minds. The consciousness is not part of our brain. Our brain is part of the consciousness. It is not sits in our skull. No? It's not in our, it lives in our body, but it doesn't belong to it. Our body-mind system is just a vehicle for consciousness, that it can manifest, that it can play, that it can go to the field experiment. In the unmanifest state is nothing to learn. So you have to create a duality. That matter can exist. Then you can, so the universal consciousness studies itself by creating the divine play, what he called the Leela, with all his absurdities and all his dark and beautiful sides. It's all perfect. It's absolutely perfect. But if you look to the limited way of our mind, it's so confusing because it's so complex. Not complicated, but complex. Yeah, you need to go have experiences beyond your mind. In deep meditation, or when you're in a very ecstatic state, yeah, you can listen to music and you forget your rational mind. You lift it to another dimension, because there are many dimensions simultaneously there. We just filter them out. That's why people having to substances experiences, oh my God, I did not know that that exists, because it put the filters off for some time. But there are natural ways. You watch a sunset or you listen to a beautiful piece of music. You see a beautiful piece of art and you're transported to another realm. And you realize something that very moment. That expands your consciousness. There a little evolution happens. There you get a glimpse of the bigger picture, so to say. A little glimpse of the much wider and vaster reality. And then you slowly start to understand that we are conscious beings, potentially. We just have to remember it. It's only remembering. The unmanifested created the manifest with the risk to forget. And that's us. We have forgotten, but we can remember.
Yeah, and even with the power of forgetting, right? Like that was its power is the only word I can come up with. And the most recent like kind of metaphor or analogy or image that I started using for myself to start to understand the in a way it feels pointless to come from the unmanifesting to the manifest, but if it's happening, I know there must be a point to it. And the metaphor that I've started trying to play with is this idea of like a blank page, right? That would be the unmanifest, and there is like this black circle, so kind of like the yin yang, but there's this like black circle in a part or in a place of that infinite white page, and that is the manifest. That is the rational mind, or the place where we know our self or our identity, and we are in display. But then I'm starting to play with this metaphor and to see that this black circle, its boundaries, you know, they're not like completely fixed. They're more like a gradient that it fades into the white. So it's like the unmanifest is unmanifest and also manifest. Do you see what I mean? Yes.
Yeah. Simultaneously. That's how it is.
And that is irrational, because if it's unmanifest,
Yes.
it shouldn't have a manifest aspect, but it does.
It does. Yeah, we are living paradoxes. Yeah, if you relax in that and that happens, you can only laugh and say, "Wow, what a play!" And you see, the unmanifest came once to me after endless eternities. It was bored, so it thought, "Why not create a little play?" So it created a little play for its own amusement, to study itself. That's why I like this concept from India. It's the Leela. It's just a play. It wants to play. And it does it since eternity. And we are part in that play. We are the play. And you are manifest and unmanifest in the same time, just a little bit percentage more in the form. And then there is a point where you are a little bit percentage more in the no form, but still something exists. There is nothing ends. If something ends, it's the beginning for something else. So yes, why you have a big white canvas? You can sit forever in front of it. Makes no sense. So you maybe start to paint something on it, and then, oh yes, and then you start to make a painting. Then you have a huge painting, but still, if you take it all off, there's still the white canvas. Or like the movie is the best thing. What is a movie? A play of light and shadow, and there is just an empty canvas. But who goes to the cinema to look at an empty canvas? You want to see some action. So it gets projected. That's the samsara. So you see, the universal information or consciousness also wanted to see some action. Did not want to look at the empty screen. It did it maybe for a few eternities. So let's make some action. Yeah? And then the universe was created. And now we have big action there. But still, it's empty and full in the same time. And when you relax with these paradoxes, but the mind can never put together because it's dualistic. Yeah, that's why the Zen people did koan studies. You get a riddle, what is impossible to solve. Find the face you had before your father and mother was born. Yeah, but you have to solve the riddle. You come to a point, if things go well, you either go mad or the mind drops and gives up. And that's exactly the state of meditation, where there is simply no traffic of thoughts. The traffic of thoughts functions like a curtain all the time. And when there is a gap, the curtain opens, and there's just presence, or call it consciousness. And then some thoughts travel again. But once you're rooted more in the consciousness, in the presence, then you see thoughts moving by. And most of them, 99%, are useless. 1% is practical. Did you lock your car in Montevideo? Oh no, better go and do it. Then you forget it, because this is just a practical thought. Yeah? Or did you close the water tap? Oh no, you better go there and do it. Or it smells. I think I have to look for the dinner. It's in the oven. I forgot I have to act. But this thoughts are very useful. They are for the material world. But 99% turning around the concept of you, what is just a hallucination?
Judgment, right?
And judgment. And when you have judgment, you have punishment. It's a coin. No? If you accept the judgment, you accept the punishment. It would be, you go to the court, the judge says you are guilty, but the punishment does not follow. Then the whole court is useless. Yeah? So in the inner world, never accept a judgment. Yeah? Your mind is programmed with judgments. dualistic mind, right, wrong, good, bad. You see, these are thoughts. Don't create a bridge and believe it, because then it happens to you. Yeah? You judge yourself, you punish yourself. And what you do with others, the same. You judge them and you punish them. If I say, okay, Rafa is a strange guy, I do not like him, he is this and this, judgment. What is the punishment? I withdraw from you, I cut the connection, that's your punishment. But I punish myself, I lose a connection. So this is very, very important. Don't believe in judgments, self-judgments and judgment to others. There always follows the punishment, and the punishment is pain. You give pain to yourself, you give pain to others. And then we never come out of the vicious circle of judgment and punishment, of pain and revenge. Look at humanity. We never forgive, we never forget, and then we create the same nonsense again, the same pain again. The people who understand just forgive and forget. Otherwise, we repeat, there's no revenge. I cannot accuse anybody on an unconscious act. In that sense, nobody is guilty, because I did not know what they are doing, but he did it. Okay. I have to forgive myself. I did many unconscious acts, but I did not know. The moment I come to know, I cannot repeat it. So it makes no sense to judge, to work with guilt and punishment. That's the way of unconsciousness that creates suffering. Judgments, punishment, guilt. It's either people, if you are conscious, you cannot do it because you feel it. Yeah? Consciousness means you're sensitive enough, you're present enough to feel, if I do this, that doesn't feel good, so I'm not doing it. That's why the sensitivity is so important. If you're just rational, you can do it because you do not feel it. Yeah? You can do inhuman acts because you refuse to feel what you do. So since we can feel immensely, we need to reactivate that, because that tells you, this I can do, this I cannot do, I feel it. And then you get this intuitive downloads. You get information. And then you feel that information. And then makes you feel so good. Perfect. This is the way to go. Or it makes you feel, oh, I don't know, I do not feel good with it. This is not the way to go. It's actually very simple. But you need to feel it, deeply feel it. To change from being just a mind. The mind is needed. It's a beautiful tool. It's also a bridge, because when you get an intuitive information, your mind has to translate it for the body that it can act. It's a bridge, it's a translator between the visible and the invisible. But when the mind becomes self-conscious, it clogs the bridge. Nothing can move, no information can move. It is filled with itself and turning around itself. It's all about me, it's all about me, it's all about me. And of course, it's like a windshield wiper who goes so fast that you hardly can see. It's like, the curtain becomes thick. Mind is a practical tool. If it is a tool for consciousness, or the servant of the heart is another way to say it, perfect. But if it's the master, it's a disaster.
And let me ask you, in connection with this, with incarnation and samsara and the point of all of this, there is this, like, I understand it is probably judgment that we place on ourselves of perhaps of not being enough you know, because, for example, in my case, I've had experiences where I feel I've been on that other side, you know, similar to near-death experiences or psychedelic experiences, etc. And then you come back here, and there is, like, in a way, there is some kind of fear of that dissolution back into that.
What's the fear for you?
It seems like a fear of dissolving back into that, to then make the choice to come back here. It's kind of the fear of returning here, actually. I think
That's already decided. It's in the Akashic records. If you have to be here, you have to be here.
Yeah.
If you have to stay, you have to stay. So you just let trust in the divine or existence or the unified field or the cosmic intelligence.
Because it's not that I don't like it here, but of course we've been speaking so much about the suffering that is present on this side of reality, and sometimes it's so much, not just the personal suffering, but also looking at the people that you love and the collective as a whole. All of the suffering sometimes gets too intense, it seems.
Mm-hmm. That's a judgment. What is too intense? You can also translate it in a very intense message. You urgently need to understand. And since we are a bit thick-headed, it needs more force. Yeah. If you wear, like the old knights, a lot of armors, if you want to speak with that fellow, you have to bang on him. Yeah, because he's not getting that somebody is outside and want to tell something. So you need a little hammer and bang on his metal. That, somebody out? What is it? And then you open.
And you know what, also, if I am wearing that armor, it's hard for anybody outside to understand. They might hear, rah, 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 rah. They want to understand what I'm saying myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So take off your armors, and it doesn't need hard hits because you get it. There is also an old saying, a good horse runs when it sees the shadow of the whip. Stupid horses need to be beaten. It says it all. If you're sensitive, you get it before the hammer falls, but you're not under it. You got it. Oh, there is something falling. I'm stopping here, right? But if you're so armored, you do not get it. Donk. Yeah. Take off your dark glasses and you see more clear, you know, or your pink glasses or whatever glasses. Yeah, we come always to the same point. Just be sensitive. It's just another word for present. If you're present, you're sensitive. So you do not need very painful, strong teachings. You do not need a storm, a little wind. Okay, I got it. But if you're very stubborn, yeah, you need a hurricane. Oh, I think I got it. But now I'm blown to the other side. Yeah. The teaching is very gentle, but if the heads are very thick, it has, you know, it has to scream. If you listen attentively, it can whisper. But if you're half dead, it has to shout. So that's why we are here. Be sensitive, be present, and you need no hard teaching. because the unmanifest or existence wants to communicate with itself. But we have a free will. We can put earplugs or headphones. What did you say? I hear my own noise. Leave me alone.
Right, but then it needs to find a way to communicate through the
yeah, to blow your headphones off. Because it's in the play, it all needs to. You brought it up with the Akashic records. Once it is written there, it has to go like this. Cannot be corrected, cannot be reversed, has many opportunities, but it has to go that way. That's how it is written. That's the universal law. So you should be here, and your suffering is because we suffer because we're very slow in the uptake. Then we have to get it again. If you're more fast, more sensitive, more present, you can turn the page faster. You do not have to read the same thing again and again. You do not have to experience the same again and again. You're in a flow. That's why the sensitivity is a coin. Sensitivity, you flip it, presence. Presence means sensitivity. You learn very fast. You understand. Nobody has to shout. You can hear the whisper. Okay.
Yes. It's wonderful to speak with you, to have this opportunity to reflect on, well, on part on your own journey that's been quite unique, or
Every journey is unique.
Yeah.
Only one time in the whole eternity happens the Rafa journey. Only one time. Can you see how perfect this is? It's just perfection. It will be never, ever repeated. And we can only be grateful for that and enjoy it. Celebrate it. You know the movie Zorba the Greek?
I know about it. I haven't seen it.
The novel, yeah. And it ends like this. There was a big catastrophe. And Zorba was kind of responsible for it. And his boss said, our life is at the end now. Zorba said, no, it was such a perfect catastrophe. You know what we do now? Let's dance. Let's celebrate it. That's the spirit. You celebrate also the catastrophe because it was a perfect one. Yeah. And then they do this Greek dance with the dum, this classical thing. Yeah. In that spirit, we can be, you need humor. Humor is very, very important. The Tibetans say we take only one thing very serious, the sense of humor, very important. And celebration, it's like a coin, humor, celebration. You can celebrate the worst, and it is already transformed. Keep your humor.
Thank you, man.
And have sometimes a good laugh at your foolishness.
Yeah.
That enlightens you.
I have a lot of foolishness, so I have a lot to laugh.
We all have. Yeah? That's why we incarnate here, is the planet for the fools. Yeah? They are a bit slow in the uptake, so they come here to learn. So here we are. And it's still very beautiful. You can look at the world in all his catastrophes. When you come back to you are here and now, it's a blessing. You have an easy life, be grateful, enjoy it, celebrate it. But since love, unconditional love, cares, so it also cares for the human, the global, the nature, for everything what exists. I'm living here, so I care for everything. Also for the bigger picture, also for the collective. That's why I'm studying it, what happens, What are the strange things happening? And then there is only one conclusion always. It needs more love, and I have to be that. Then it's there. It needs more compassion, needs more understanding, needs more sensitivity, more presence. So be it. Just by being it, you start already to sharing. Then the frequency exists, a higher frequency exists, and that brings it to a tipping point. It can only go better. Also, when it looks the worst, it only can go better. The evolution of consciousness is unstoppable. But it has fermenting phases where it looks very ugly.
Right.
Don't be fooled by temporary pictures. Stay with a bigger picture. Sense it, feel it, be it. And there are only blessings and gratitude. We are not lost. Only temporary it looks like that. It looks like existence still believes in the human experiment. Otherwise, it would switch it off. Once it tried with big bodies and small brain, the dinosaurs, that experiment was cancelled, at least here. Now they try with small bodies and big brain. It's not yet decided. Looks good in spite of all. Okay. When I meet people like you, like friends, I'm always optimistic because they understand. It's happening. Okay. Thank you, Rafa.
Thank you, Pan. One of the main takeaways that I get from at least from this half is this message that you say of feeling and being more in the intuition and in the sensing.
Yes.
To listen to that other half, unmanifest half that is trying to speak with us, and
yes.
And to be present with that.
Yes, because it's you too, just invisible. You are all.
Yeah, it's the larger part of us, definitely.
Yeah, just now in a small form, but all is in you, in everybody, in everything. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Namaste.
I think we made even more than an hour now, right?
Yeah. And also, again, thank you to everybody that's watching. Thank you for the support. And we'll be seeing you, and you'll be seeing me in our next conversation with the next guest. And I hope, Pan, we can do this again. This is really a beautiful time and a beautiful sharing. Okay.
Send me the link when it's online.
I will. Yeah? Yes.
That I can share it again.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Thank you. Ciao.